what is my sense of self? Am I the godly soul or am I the animal soul? So in truth, right, from God's perspective, from Yehuda Ilah, from this higher divine consciousness, we are that divine spark of God within us. That is the true I. Yet from Yehuda Tata, from our worldly perspective, from our consciousness, I am the animal soul. So let's look at a quote from a proof of this that we have in Jewish literature, is that we say in the morning, the soul that you gave to me. Ha-neshama shenatata bi, the soul that you placed within me. So who's speaking? Right? Who's talking? The soul that you gave to me. So it's not my soul. Oh, it's the animal soul. And this is specifically the prayer of Moda Ani that we say when we wake up in the morning. Moda Ani lefenecha melchai v'kem she'azarte bi nishmata b'hamla Rabba Amunatzecha, the soul that you place within me, return to me. It's the animal soul thanking God for returning the godly soul. And therefore, my initial consciousness, just as a being, as I'm just barely awake, saying this prayer as soon as my eyes open, is that my first identity, my first level of consciousness of self is the animal soul. And so who is that me? It's the ego and the Sitra Achra, right? That me that I identify with is the Sitra Achra, meaning that self-indulgent pleasure is that base level of humanness. So the convenient thing about that is that if I want to crush the Sitra Achra, because we're saying it's this ego that's getting me in the way from me actually having a godly experience and having this connection with God, so I need to crush myself, right? I need to crush the ego. And so it's convenient because it's within me. I don't need to travel across a rickety bridge. No, like it's within me. Because in the case of the Beinoni, right, we're discussing why it is that from our perspective, we are the animal soul. Because in the case of the Beinoni, the negative energy of Sitra Achra is identified with the actual person himself. People who sin acquire a negative energy field as a result of their behavior. But it's so funny because like we're so used to being disgusted by the word sin. It's like archaic. What is it? But you say negative energy field, like that's the world we live in. We're all talking about negative energy fields. That's like totally the new age consciousness here. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. But in a less pronounced way, the Beinoni has a pre-existing negative energy built into his system at birth. Right? We're not blaming the person. We're not shaming the person. We're talking about a spiritual reality. The Alter is very about not being in denial of our spiritual reality. Since the energizing animal soul, which gives life to the body, remains in its innate strength as it was at birth in the Beinoni's heart, so that negative energy field is not something acquired. It's an integral part of the person. Right? That negative energy field, Sitra Achra, this ego, it's an integral part of that person's self, right? It's there from birth and it stays as strong as it was at birth. It's not something that we're weakening. Therefore, if I want to deflate the Sitra Achra, basically I'm having a Sitra Achra overload. The Sitra Achra, this ego within me, is too strong that the light of my soul is not able to shine through. Therefore, I'm having this complacency. I'm having this blockage of the heart, this Timtum Alev. So therefore, it's simple. I need to deflate my ego. So how do we do that? We need to have an intervention. So we get it clear that things are not okay. And therefore, I can get out of this complacency and go into action mode. And this is going to come through this intervention that's going to crush the ego. Meaning we need to splinter the ego and then it can ignite. But right now I'm in this place where I think everything's just fine and dandy and I need to have this intervention with myself. So complacency or like denial kind of looks like this. Yeah, I know I should work on that. And the other person's telling us like, no, it's an emergency. Mayday, mayday. And we're like, yeah, when I get around to it, right? So like, okay, I'm having this spiritual blockage. And like, I'm not even so necessarily bothered by it, you know? It's like, okay, like I'm just numb. Okay, whatever, I don't care. But it's like we have to get it through to ourselves. Like, no, this is not okay. I need to have this blockage. So once again, we said at the beginning of all this that this is not something we practice today. The Rebbe said very clearly we can accomplish what we normally would with crushing ourselves, say with joy. The same way you could splinter that initial wood by crushing it, by chopping it. You could also splinter it with the joy, right? So the intervention can also be done with joy. Not just can it be, that's the only way to do it effectively in this generation. So this is how an intervention works, okay? Classic style in context of what we're learning with the Alter Rebbe was teaching. You gather the X file on the bad stuff that this person did, so they can finally accept to make a change, right? You're breaking the person. You're gathering everyone they know. You're setting everyone around, and every bad thing they ever did, we're going to talk about it until they get through their thick skull at this moment. Yes, okay, I need to change. Because until then, like, yeah, maybe let's have a conversation. I don't really know. It's like, no, we need to get this clear that this state of Timtum Alev, this complacency, is not an okay state to be. This is a spiritual damaging state to be, a state of complacency. So this is breaking the ego, the Sitra Achra, by proving to it with evidence that it's mismanaging your life and causing you damage. You're saying, look how you hurt me here. Look how you hurt me here. Sitra Achra, ego, I do not want you to claim, rule over me. I want the light of my soul to be able to shine because look at the damage that this is causing me. So, once again, we do not practice this today. The old way, right? So, first of all, the goal is crush Sitra Achra, right? To kill the apathy. It's too thick. The wood is too thick. I need to stop the spiritual blockage, okay? The old tool is crushing it with harshness, and the new tool is crushing it through joy. We can also splinter it through joy. And perhaps you've experienced this before. We're in such a stuck, insular place because ego keeps us in fear. It keeps us stuck. It keeps us insular. It just keeps us to ourselves in a very stuck space. And when I can just burst through with joy, right? All of a sudden you find yourself in a dance party. Like you just can't help it. Like your ego gets splintered. You're now open to something greater. And it's beautiful that we're learning this in the month of Adar, which is the month of joy. Oh. In non-leap year chitas, this might be Shvat, but either way, so either when you're listening to this, you're in Adar, the month of joy, or you're preparing for the month of joy. And it's like, that's the power of the joy can break the ego. The ego's like, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, fear. And it's like, when you get to a place of simcha and you're opened up, it breaks the ego the same way that we're learning